it that way. Hey everybody, Dustin DePirek here, columnist Andy Graham. We just filed, we came back to the office for various technological reasons that don't make any sense. We wrote stories, they may have been in English, I'm not sure. I don't know that I completed sentences or had commas one way or the other. I mean, I guess they'll be in the paper tomorrow, you'll find out. But anyway, Indiana gets its hearts absolutely broken, shattered, destroyed, devastated, wrenched, blah, 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 blah. Again, 41-39. This one was really, really tough one to watch. They came back, they'd been down 13 points, come back with 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes, score with 49 seconds left.
The true freshman quarterback.
Nate Sudfeld. All BallState had was 49 seconds to get down the field. They do it on a very, very controversial play. Keith Wenning throws up this sort of lob thing to Willie Snead that somehow...
When everybody knew it was going to go to the sidelines, and yet somehow Snead gets to it and Indiana defenders don't.
Right, and so they ruled that he was in.
Which he wasn't.
So yeah, let's just start there. I was just going to tee it up for you. I honestly, I mean, maybe I'm just not good at knowing the ins and outs as far as these things are concerned, but
maybe I'm not
Andy
either.
Definitively says no freaking way was that.
I don't think that was a catch. I mean, I think I would say that if I was watching UCLA against Stanford or whatever, if I was watching an NFL game, trying to be totally objective about it, it seemed to me that when by the time he actually latched onto the ball, his feet had probably left the ground, and then the first parts of his body to land on the ground were the elbow and the shoulder, which were clearly out of bounds. To me, it was no catch.
Yeah.
I could see that you might be able to argue in a really nuanced way that maybe his toes were still on the ground. I don't think they were. I watched the replay several times, and unless I'm not just seeing things clearly, I thought it was not a catch. And yet they called it a catch on the field, and I don't blame him for that. I mean, it's a bang play. It's a very difficult call to make on the field. I do have some question as to what the replay official was looking at, and maybe he had a different angle from what I saw, and maybe something he saw that I didn't see made him think that he was on the field of play making the catch. Maybe he thought he got his thigh down in bounds, which brings up a whole other set of questions. If he came down in bounds,
should the clock
stop? I mean, it's a first down, but then do you run the clock? I mean, they might have had to scramble to get their field goal team on if you rule him down.
Well, not even scramble. If you rule him down and in, it's over.
Well,
it's over.
But they stopped the clock for a first down, and then they have to wind it. But I don't know, once again, I'd have to consult the rule book on that one. But suffice to say that it was a heck of a play by Snead. Made a fantastic catch. Whether it was inbounds or not, I didn't think it was. I thought he was out of bounds. But he made a heck of a play. You have to give the kid credit for it. And Ball State did what they had to do. I mean, Ball State, once again, played very well. But Indiana outgained them. What were the final? It was 558 yards for Indiana, 440 for Ball State.
Yeah.
And yet Indiana, just takes an absolute knife to the heart at the end. You have to give the Ball State, it's a fifth-year senior field goal kicker, and he very calmly, from 42 yards out, put it through the uprights. He'd already kicked a 51-yarder in the first half at that end of the field, so clearly he had the he had the ability to do it, but it spoiled what had been a
really good football
game. Hectic.
All in all, on both sides, it's a really good football game.
Indiana had a really desultory third quarter, but other than that, both teams played pretty well in the other 3 quarters, and Ball State played well in every quarter.
Yeah.
But Indiana, you have to give the Hoosiers credit. I mean, they're down 13 with 4 minutes to play. They have a true freshman quarterback who's really seen his first action under actual fire when a game's on the line, and boy, he made some plays. I mean, he made a 4th down pass to Kofi Hughes, where Kofi made a great leaping
Huge
catch.
play. No, that was really impressive.
It took great stones just to stand in there and make that throw with the game on the line. I think Ball State blew a coverage on his first touchdown pass out on the east sideline. But that last drive, you just have to give Sudfeld and Indiana a lot of credit for making plays. Ball State was panicking a little bit then. They had a couple of interference calls that were clear interference calls.
Right.
So they were trying to hang on to people a little bit at that point. But, it turned out just to be an absolute heart-pounding finish, and I credit both teams for that. And once again, from an Indiana perspective, I know Indiana fans have to be hurting right now. That was a tough call at
Yeah.
the end of the game not to have it go your way, because I
Yeah.
thought the replay to me showed that it was not a catch.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it becomes heartbreaking for so many reasons after that when you really sort of pile it on. This, for one thing, was sort of their revenge game. This was sort of Indiana's opportunity to prove that they're better, that they're not going to get beaten, pushed around by a MAC team in the state. They kind of did last year at Lucas Oil. They obviously came back and they hit hard, and Ball State was obviously an improved team, and they just went back and forth. But this obviously puts them in a position that, not that everybody was thinking bowl game with this season, but, I think people were starting to wonder maybe because you look at Navy didn't look good today or at all. Some other Big Ten teams have looked very, very vulnerable. Penn State, Illinois, Iowa. There's a lot of teams that looked sort of beatable, and now you're in a position that even if you beat Navy, you absolutely need 3 Big Ten wins to see a postseason. Now, obviously, they had 1 win last year, so something much in between there still works as improvement. But
Indiana's a work in progress. There's
Sure.
been progress made, and they just have to keep working. It's going to be really hard. I mean,
Right.
what really hurts is you're going into a 2-week bye week situation now where you don't play next week.
Yeah.
And obviously it would have been a lot more positive a
To go
context
to
for
win,
Indiana if they would have won a thriller instead of losing a thriller like that. And so, but they just have to get over it. I mean, it's one of those things where I know it has to just be soul stunting, but you just have to get over it and get back to work, because clearly you're making some progress.
Right.
And to do what you want to do this season anyway, you're still gonna have to make some progress. And now you have another question though too, with Kaufman having apparently a hip pointer in the game, which meant that Sudfeld played the fourth quarter. Now let's see what that situation portends going forward.
Right.
Because I was thinking, now, especially if they had come off a win, they would have had 2 weeks to prepare for Northwestern, 2 more weeks to assimilate a new starting quarterback and get comfortable. Now that's up in the air too, because I don't know if both of them are going to be able to take snaps over the next 2 weeks, or whether
that's
it's going to
the
be
point I was trying
primarily
to make.
Sudfeld.
That's the point I was trying to make, though. I think what was really impressive, if there was anything that kind of stood out to me today, was the fact that how much of a difference a week meant for both of those guys. I do, and I think even Kaufman last week, what you can tell is, I think 2 quarterbacks get a lot of time in this system. They run a lot of plays. They a lot of times they'll do 2 huddles at the same time. They are getting a lot of reps for 2 quarterbacks. A lot of times the third guy is not seeing much of anything, and I think that you could tell from seeing Nate Sudfeld last
Earlier,
week that
right.
he really hadn't really had a ton of opportunities. They're trying to get him mental reps, but it's not the same.
Right.
However, they are getting 2 quarterbacks a lot of reps. You could see a huge change in Nate Sudfeld this week from last week.
To me, they both passed the test.
Cam Kaufman.
They both passed the test. They were tested, and both of them passed it.
Cam
And
Kaufman
that's
didn't have a great
positive.
third quarter, but otherwise he was very efficient. 24 out of 35, 251 yards, 2 scores. I mean, I think he probably completed probably 14 of his first 16, I think. I could be wrong about that one, but I want to look back at it. But that was pretty impressive. Sudfeld was 13 for 20. Looked good, looked sharp. I mean, looked in control,
Yeah, he
really.
did.
And especially when they were in a 2-minute drill, he looked even more comfortable because it was like he didn't have time to think. It was just make first, drop back, first read. Is it there? Yes, throw.
Yep.
You know?
I mean, it's a
he's
sophomore,
got a great arm.
It's a sophomore JUCO quarterback making his first start, and a true freshman seeing his first actual play under fire. Neither of them threw a pick. Both of them threw 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Both of them
Those guys were
combined
ready,
to complete the kind of percentage that Indiana needs completed in this offense.
Right. I think
And
it
so
looked
that's
like
that's a positive.
Roberson brings that extra skill that they were just trying to figure out how they work it in, but these guys sort of fit into the mold, that they wanted to. Like they and like Kaufman, in a way especially, they love those high percentage throws, love those quick hits, those bubble screens, like all that kind of stuff. Just hit those, and that was what Kaufman did really well. He had a couple big throws that he had to look deep for, not a lot, but most of it was hitting stuff between 5 and 10, 5 and 10, 5 and 10. Was really able to move the offense well.
Right.
Hit the running backs out of the backfield, hit tight ends on drag routes, hit receivers on slants, that sort of thing. The occasional sort of deep out that you really got to have to put some zip on, but there weren't a lot of those. It was a lot of just short timing, bang, bang, bang stuff. Sudfeld was kind of the same way. He was making just a lot of good reads, and I think there was a little bit more distance on it. Got lucky, with Latimer on the 70-yarder. But really, both of those guys,
you talk about Kaufman throwing short most of the time, and that's true. And he needs to be a technician in that way. But Indiana had 343 yards of offense in the first half with Kaufman.
Yeah.
And so there were some chunks of yardage involved
Yeah.
in that. And so I think it was very encouraging from that point. As painful as this has to be, and as devastated as those guys must be as a team, I think it's one of those things.
There's a lot you can take. I mean,
there's a
when
lot
you
of
can
positive
get over
you
it, when
take.
you can kind of sit
Yeah,
around
you
and like
get
really,
over it.
they do have 2 weeks to get over it at
Yep.
the very least. I
Get
mean,
over it,
you
get
know,
back to work, and try and make it Monday that you get back to work.
Right.
And that's how they have to look at it. I mean, if they're a bit angry, if it's a bid us against the world, if they think they got hosed by the final call, fine. Turn that into some motivation.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, that's all we got. Thanks, guys.